Welcome to Backstage with Kennedy. This little show will be your remedy. From Toronto, spanning across the sea. Cool people, lots of laughs. This is your favorite podcast.
Hello and welcome. My name's Kennedy from the Backstage with Kennedy podcast. We got an awesome guest today, Mr. Cactus Vella. If you don't know of him, he is an amazing punk folk kind of singer. So he does a lot of like 3-string acoustic stuff, but he does it with this grit that I think a lot of people really appreciate. I kind of see some Chuck Ragan influence in there, some Bruce Springsteen. There's a ton of stuff in there for y'all to check out. So how you doing today, man?
I'm very good. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, man.
Hey, anytime. So you've been pretty busy, I guess, getting this record all set up. Can you tell the people a little bit about the record?
Yeah, I'd love to. I think, but like calling it a record is a little, a little too much. It's 2 songs, right? So it's a 2-song release. I was gonna put together a record, and I just the 2 songs complement each other, and I just felt it's been a while since I've released something, so I'm happy just to put them out as an as their own entity, just like that. It's one original song called Shipwreck, and in the B-side is a cover of the old Crow Medicine Show song called I Hear Them All. Recorded the songs in the comfort of my own home.
Beautiful.
And yeah. And then I had them mastered by Ryan Cox from Dragged In. He does a fantastic job with that. And and they'll be released on Little Rocket Records very soon.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So I took a look at the artwork. Awesome artwork. Like, I love the songs. Don't get me wrong.
Cool.
But
Thanks.
the artwork really caught my eye. What's the idea behind it? I know anybody who lives in Toronto will see the familiar site and they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But what was kind of the influence for you to decide that was how you're going to go with it? And what's the meaning behind it?
Oh, well, actually, it's just a photo my wife took. And she took it a while ago. Like, that was like, she took like 5 years ago. She came home one day and she's like, "Babe, look at this picture I got." And she was on the subway and she saw some dude and he wasn't really paying attention. So she just did like a really casual yoink. And it's just fucking perfect, right? It's this old dude, looks like a grizzled war veteran kind of. He's got a crusty eye patch, and like just happens to have Yonge Station right behind him in the window, saying Young, right behind this old dude. And it's just like, yeah. And I put that photo in a folder. I'm like, I'm going to use this one day. And then when I was doing my layout and design for this single, I was playing off a Shipwreck. I was doing some pictures of some ships and like wreckage. And then I was like, no, this photo actually would work perfect. And I just felt it represented the songs, the overall feel of the songs.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's a little bit like slower, toned down, but at the same time, like it has, I don't know, it has that grit of the Toronto subway and a dude with an eye patch. You know?
Definitely. I'm very proud to be a Torontonian. I love living in Toronto. I don't want to go anywhere. I'm happy to be here. Yeah. I've seen a lot of my friends have to leave whether they want to or just because, the cost of living is crazy here now, right?
Yeah.
But I'm very happy to have my ass parked in Toronto, and I love this city.
I'm with you. I love it. I love it here as well. I live out in Etobicoke, so I'm kind of in the city. But
you're in the city, yeah.
I call myself a Toronto.
That's right. Yeah.
So you've done this for a while. Like, you've been in bands for 3 decades, at least at this point. And you've also been doing like the singer-songwriter-esque punk rock acoustic sound. What kind of got you into deciding to do that as well as be in the bands?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't even know, man. Like, I just remember like in high school, like bringing my acoustic guitar to school with me, getting on the school bus, bringing my acoustic guitar with me at lunchtime, sitting under a tree and playing like Screech and Weasel and Operation Ivy songs on my acoustic guitar. and maybe a couple of the punk rockers would walk by and sing along with me for a minute, and then some jocks would come by and throw money at me very offensively, but I was happy to take it, and it was just like so. And then I always wrote songs on an acoustic guitar, and it was when I was playing in Bomb Shelter, I started developing an acoustic set, and as soon as that band folded, I didn't want to stop gigging. At that point, I was just in love with playing shows and doing as much as I could musically and being a part of the community. So I just started booking myself solo shows right away. Because as we know, when you play in bands and bands break up, you'll go 6 months, you'll go 3 years before you play a show again. And I didn't want to ever stop. And so thanks to the ability of having like a singer-songwriter thing on the side, or now it's my main thing, I always got to play. Just always got to play. Yeah.
So yeah, I get that. I think I'm starting to see a lot of people around me that are in punk bands kind of going that same route now as well. I mean, I don't know if you know John Craig Sifton. He's doing it. He's from Kilroy AD. Chuck Coles was always talking about how he loved to do that. So
yes,
it's nice to see Chuck doing that. But like people are starting to do it more and more, I'm seeing, and it's nice. It's refreshing, especially with the new world that we're getting with COVID. There's gonna be a lot more acoustic shows.
that's right. Yeah, and Chuck's awesome. I love playing gigs with him, and I wish he was around. I wish half these guys were around when I first started it, because like when I started doing this in like '97. There was no one else that I knew of in the city doing the acoustic punk thing. There was a few guys that were somewhat close, but they didn't have a lot of grit. And so when I'd get booked on these shows, I'd either be booked on with like 3 or 4 punk hardcore bands, it works, but it's a little weird when you go from like, a couple hardcore bands to like me. And then, or else I'd be booked on these shows, which I could only refer to as like Island of the Misfits Toys. It was just like they'd take the weirdest things. It would be like me, and then it would be some dude who does like psychedelic keyboard weird sounds. And then like it was just like odd stuff, right? You know what I mean? Then there'd be like somebody like, hammering nails up their nose. It was just like weird shit. I didn't know anyone else doing the acoustic punk thing for a long, long time. When I noticed when Against Me first started getting some attention with their first couple of EPs, and then with Reinventing Axl Rose LP, that's when I started seeing a lot of people doing the acoustic thing way more. So early 2000s. Yeah.
So with, like I mentioned there that, with COVID, acoustic shows are going to become a little bit more consistent. Like you're going to see that a lot more. Just being like social distancing barriers, you could sit down and listen if you really want. Are you going to be gigging in the future? I know that you're a father now. Are you still gigging consistently, or are you kind of just taking a step back from that, I guess?
Well, I was playing right up until COVID, not as much, but I was, and I've been thinking about it a lot lately, and I'm like, I've been meaning to reach out to a few people and be like, do you want to try to put together like an acoustic show? Like, I wouldn't want to overdo it. Maybe like 3 artists at the most, and like find somewhere outdoors. You don't want it to turn into some weird hippie Woodstocky thing, right? But like if I could like find the right platform, I think it would be a good idea.
Exactly.
Definitely.
And you don't want to put anybody at harm either. Like
well, that goes without saying. Yeah, of course. Of course.
Absolutely. So those outdoor shows I think are awesome.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of doing this. You don't need equipment. You don't need a stage is wherever I put my 2 feet. That becomes a stage, right? So I don't need lighting and all that shit.
So you shared the stage with a lot of fantastic bands. From Bad Religion to Black Flag to NoFX to the list goes on. I feel like I'm doing it an injustice just by naming them to begin with.
Right.
There's so many great bands that you've played with. What was your favorite show that you've ever played?
Oh,
tell me about it.
Okay. It was probably Leatherface in Toronto. So we did like a week or so of Ontario shows with Leatherface, and in the middle of it was the Toronto show, and it was a pretty big deal. Like it was at the Rung Bar. I'm not sure what the capacity is there. Maybe 600 or something, and it was packed. It was sold out, and it was like I remember, and there was like a lot of bands on the bill. There was like 5 bands, and I remember the promoter coming up And he was like, we want, and I was in sinking ships at the time, and he was like, we want to bump you guys to direct support. And I'm like, oh, really? I'm like, that's cool. And he's just like, yeah, there's a lot of politics. I'm not sure. And I'm like, well, don't bother. He's like, no, this is your crowd. This is a big night for you guys. Like, it was so weird. Like, half of our high school from like 20 years earlier came out because everyone like was into Leatherface. It was a big band in my scene, and yeah, that was a great night. It just there was love in the air. There was a great electricity, and Leatherface were my favorite band. Second to that, I think maybe Dropkick Murphys at the Sound Academy was pretty awesome because I was in the Class Assassins, and Chad, the singer, announced on stage that I was getting married. And like I literally had like 5,000 people give me a round of applause, and I was like, I got like, you know, the hairs on my arm were sticking up. I was like, all these people were giving me high fives all night and shit. So it was pretty cool. That was a big deal. There's been a few good ones, definitely.
I know that Dropkick Murphys, just great dudes. I mean, I've never met them personally, but everybody I know who has met them is just like wicked dudes.
They're really nice, really nice. Yeah.
And I mean, that's a testament. Just that story right there, I think, is a pretty solid reasoning to back that up. So, are you a big Bruce Springsteen guy? I know that you created like a collaborative compilation album once upon a time with covers of Springsteen songs. Are you a big Springsteen guy?
Yeah, not overly, but like, yeah, definitely. Like, I'm a Springsteen fan. I probably have like 10 records in my collection over there. Yeah, I like Springsteen a lot. But also it was I wouldn't say an easy choice, but it was a smart choice to make in terms of doing a tribute album and finding an artist that can be stripped down to straightforward acoustic guitar that punk rockers could do and that we could all agree on. Definitely. Yeah, Springsteen's awesome. Yeah.
So Anxiety Attack Records. That's pretty cool that you had your own record label. What really got you started on that? Was it you wanted to put on your friends at first? Just like how did that work out for you?
Yeah, I think it was like all the bands I ever played in, we always had a label or an indie label that we were working with. But I know, and I don't remember which came first, so my history is a little messed up here. But I know, for example, when I was in the Class Assassins, we were on Rebel Time Records, and we just put out a 7-inch, and we were backing it up, and we were supposed to be selling copies of it and everything, obviously. But then we went in and did a performance on CIUT radio, and they gave us a recording of it, and the mix was awesome. And I was so proud of how good the band sounded live off the floor with like no bells and whistles, no overdubs. I was just like stoked. So I'm like, this needs to be released. And I wasn't going to ask the record label to put it out because they're still backing up the 7-inch. So I'm like, I'll put it out. So I put that out on my own label, you know, not burned, but got like 500 CDs made. And then same thing, I put out the last Sinking Ships album. Also, I think what started it was there was a little bit of a lull for a while, and there was like nothing had come out of the scene, the overall Southern Ontario scene in a while to represent where we were at. So I decided to do a download comp. And I reached out to, I don't know how many bands. It's probably like 25 bands or something on it. And the stipulation was it had to be a new song. Like, so I'm reaching out to bands and I'm like, hey, do you have new material? And they're like, why? And I'm like, I'm putting it together a comp. And they're like, oh, can I throw you something from our second album? And I'm like, that was like 5 years ago. No, like it needs to be within the last 12 months or unreleased, even better. And I wanted it to serve as a tool for promoters as well. So it was a Southern Ontario comp, and basically I sent it off to promoters all around and basically said, this is where we're at. Stop asking if there's any good bands, because like here's 25 fucking awesome bands that are actually working right now and putting out new music and playing. And it was great. Like, we broke the internet, man. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with Bandcamp, but I wanted to, okay, so when you upload music on Bandcamp, you set your price, right? And you can make something free, but there's a cap. So I made it a free download, and then all of a sudden I start getting, you know, we got a little bit of press, like a couple of the websites and stuff are promoting it for us. And then I get this email from someone going, hey, I'm calling bullshit. You said your comp's free, but I just got charged $5. And I was like, what? So I go and look at the settings, and I have an email from Bandcamp saying, you've exceeded your, whatever it is, 10,000 free downloads. So I had to pay money to make it free again. And then that happened like a week later. So we ended up doing like some ridiculous amount of downloads and streams, which I was very, I was like humbled by it. I was like, this is crazy. But yeah, it was a good experience. It was really cool.
So, Cactus, you've been around in the scene for quite a while. What would you recommend? Like, if you could say one thing to a musician who's just starting out,
Mhm.
like any words of advice, what would it be?
Remember to have fun. Remember to have fun. If you want to try and make a serious go at it, and like you really want to try and make a serious go at it, maybe don't play with your friends only because they're your friends. Like maybe find more like-minded musicians. Try to find people that are on the same page as you. If you're just looking to have a good time and it's your excuse to hang out with your friends, then by all means play with someone who's literally played drums for a week. Who cares? But if you're looking to if you, it's kind of like being in a relationship. You don't, if you want to have children, you don't marry someone who doesn't want to have children, right? It's the exact same thing. If you want to take us on a stab at it and you're okay and you want to play for nothing because you have to do the circuit a few times before you start getting guarantees and you're not afraid to sleep on floors and you're not afraid of a car breaking down, then find people that are in the same boat and then have a blast. Love it. But, sometimes you can get weighed down by playing with people who don't have the same end goal as you. So, and like I said, have fun and try not to get any bad habits going on because there's a lot of shit can happen when you're a musician.
That's I think that's a major thing. I would say personally would be don't get bad habits.
Don't get bad habits, man. It's
when
ruined a lot of us. So yeah.
When you're hanging around the bars, bad habits that can come up. That's for sure.
Yeah. Totally.
So where can people? I know it hasn't come out yet, but where can people find Shipwreck?
It's coming out through Little Rocket Records, so it'll be on all of their platforms. So it'll be on Spotify, it'll be on Bandcamp. You can probably get it on iTunes, I'm assuming. YouTube. There's a music video to go along with it as well that I shot during COVID, so it was a little tricky, like to find somebody who would, I have this great buddy who's an awesome director. And we shot it from 6 feet apart. It was like it's just me performing in my secret clubhouse, otherwise known as my tool shed. And so that should be available. I think it all comes out next Friday, the 28th. I think that's the date.
Perfect.
And then besides Shipwreck, you can just find the rest of my stuff at like cactusvellamusic.com.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been really I've been listening to you the last week quite a bit, and it's just very, very impressed. And I feel like once I listen to one of your songs, I have to listen to the next one. So cool. I hope that people get that same pull when they listen to the new stuff, that they want to go check out all your older stuff as well.
I hope so too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cactus, and thanks for coming on the podcast, man. I'm going to wrap it up, but I do appreciate you coming on. Had a great time just shooting the breeze, and it's nice to show people really talented, good people in the scene. I love doing that. So it's nice to have you on, man.
Thanks a lot, man. And when the scene clears up a little bit and things are better and we can all go out, we'll meet up at the Bovine and have some cold ones. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Man. Can't wait to see you around. You take care, bud.
Thank you very much.